What is going on, everybody? Bobby Thigh and Eric Sheets Haber. We're going to be talking through this giant Tuesday slate. We've got things to talk about. We've got options. We've got weather issues. The Millionaire Tournament is running tonight, so I know Sheets will be in there for that. I'm a big TBD on that one myself, but taking a look, open to it. Anyway, Sheets, any overall thoughts before we jump into game by game on this slate?
Yeah, first of all, so last night I actually had a pretty decent night. I got like 10th in the ball for the 250.
Beautiful.
And like 14th in the 888. Nothing, had the Cincinnati's. So when you have the Cincinnati's, it makes your life a lot easier. Was very I want to say surprising, but I guess it shouldn't have been surprising that how owned Crochet ended up being after all of that. I really thought that he was going to be, lower owned than the other guys. But no, can't fight City Hall sometimes,
Yeah, I think that the Crochet, it's one of those things where everything, including the total, just because when you take Mookie and Teoscar out against the lefty of the Dodger lineup, it's not exactly the scariest lineup in the world to face. So I think that's what had something to do with it. Anyway, should be an interesting slate tonight. And
with respect to the slate tonight, you're going to have to. It is chalk city, all right, especially with the pitching. So we're gonna have to figure out some way to be different. I think.
I see one person who will be chalky. I have no idea who the most popular SP2 is going to be.
I guess that's sort of what I meant. But listen, and I have a couple of preferred stacks, but it's a question of how owned I think they're all going to be. So let me share my screen, I guess, and then we'll just kind of go game by game and reveal what our early looks are at least.
Yeah. All right. So we're starting off with Toronto and Boston.
Yeah. So the way the pitching's going to work out, there's like one guy that's like way ahead of everybody else. I actually think there's a guy that's second, and then there's it's an incredible like wall of pitchers that you can choose from. And you could actually say that there's just one pitcher, and then that second guy, which we'll get to in a second, probably goes down within the normal group because of variance. But I definitely think that Gausman is a guy. I think that should be always thrown into your GPP pool anyway. And when you're looking for that second pitcher tonight, I think he's totally reasonable. And yet, on the other hand, I do have Boston as one of the, I guess. I'm gonna like narrow it down to what is this, like maybe eight main stacks that I would look at, and two kind of stand out among the others, maybe three. And I have Boston kind of in there, maybe 7 or 8. So I do have Boston as in play, but I don't have Bello, I don't have Toronto. But I have a little bit of Gausman, and Boston is not bad either.
Yeah, I'm open to the Gausman for sure. For what it's worth, it's obviously a tough park and a team that's much better against righties than they are against lefties. But I'm open to the idea of Gausman as a pivot off of our, what will be, I guess we'll just say Hunter Brown is going to be the mega chalk. But I do think Gausman either with or as a pivot is fine. It's hot in Boston. It's not an ideal pitching situation. And I think that it's okay to play some of the Blue Jays here as well. I'm a little more interested in the Blue Jays than I am in Boston myself, but I think that the Blue Jays and Gausman are two ways to get a little bit different on this slate, which I'm certainly considering at the moment. But neither make the priority list for me. All right, we can move on to Pittsburgh Cincy.
Yeah, this is the other game. Yeah, this is the other one. I would be getting basically 100% Hunter Brown as we get to him later. And
I'd be getting not play though.
What?
It legitimately may not play.
Who?
This game, Pittsburgh Cincinnati.
Oh, really? I have no idea. Is it?
Yeah. They think Roth has it as full orange. Delay looks likely. Postponed is definitely possible.
Okay. Well, we'll keep an eye on that because for me, if in fact this game we're playing, we'll know pretty soon, I guess. Is that I have Hunter Green as kind of clearly the second best guy. So I guess we'll talk about that. But then again, like he does have the variance that always comes with Hunter Green. So because of that, if this game played, I'd probably be getting some Pittsburgh also. So Pittsburgh, Hunter Green, if the game plays. I didn't get to Keller or the Cincinnati side today for some reason. But, again, we still have to look, obviously check the weather as we get closer. But at least it's an early game.
Yeah, and I think Hunter Green would be popular, but I do think that weather is going to scare people off, and I think maybe for very, very good reason. I don't see any great – I think these guys are both consideration. If you're going to tell me that Hunter Green's going to be 4 times the ownership of Keller, I'll just play Keller. Like, it doesn't – I don't think I need to overthink it, really. I do like Hunter Green's upside. I think there's a huge – there's obviously a lot of risk that comes with him as well because he's that sort of hit or miss, but he's been much more consistent to his credit. He's super talented. Sure, if this game was clear, I think I might have looked at it different this morning, but I'm sort of worried about it. And it's incredible hitting weather in Cincinnati. I mean, it's 90 degrees with 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing out at what already is the second best hitting stadium for home runs in baseball. So I like the idea of a contrarian Pittsburgh stack if in fact, we get this game as a full go-ahead. And I don't think anybody's playing anybody on either side. So I think you could definitely consider pieces of Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. Keller, I tend to like not to get hit as much more. I don't know. I think I'd rather take a shot on just a blow-up game from Green. And I don't mind the idea of Keller. I think, the strikeout prop is within 1. Keller's been absolutely awesome lately. I don't know. So I'm sort of I could see all angles of this one, but if the weather is risky at all, I'm certainly willing to cross it off because there's other spots I like on the slate. All right, the Mets and your Yankees. You get the battle of the Subway Series here.
So something to keep in mind. Again, I don't really know the personalities or whatever, but Garrett Cole, he his first start back, he threw 62 pitches. These are always really big series in New York when the Yankees play the Mets, and I'm not going to prioritize him or anything, but if he comes out and gets a full workload and puts up 35, no one's allowed to complain.
I don't know if I agree with that because I think that there's no way in the world anybody on the planet thinks there's any way he throws more than 80 pitches. Like, I can't imagine.
I know that.
But you think it's possible he could? Coming out.
I think that if he's having a good game, he'll give freaking Boone the look. He's like, this Subway Series, I'm not coming out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Yeah. I really don't know.
Maybe.
I'm not gonna prioritize him or anything like that. But and the good thing is it's an early game, so it's not like something I have to make a late pivot on when something's not going my way. But one thing I will say, this comes as no surprise for anybody that follows this stream. Peterson against the Yankees. It's 400 degrees out. Good luck to you, sir. So I'm gonna definitely be playing some of the Yankees. I know that it's not the greatest park in the world, but don't particularly care about that considering the weather out here and the Peterson effect. So I do like the Yankees. They're not my top choice. I have them probably 6th or 7th, but I definitely like them, and definitely know Peterson. And like I said, I want to be clear. I don't want to play Garrett Cole, and he's not showing up projections.
Sure.
But I'm just kind of just worried that he just gets mad and puts up 30 because he feels like it,
Right. And by the way, he could do 30 in 80 pitches. We've seen weird stuff like that from him before.
The Mets have been very resilient, to say the least, recently. So
yeah, it's an interesting game because I can't do the Cole thing. I just don't think he's going to throw the pitches. I don't think there's any way, no matter what he does. And I know what you mean about he's a guy that usually let throw 120, but his second start after that serious of an injury, when you're the ace of a team with the the second.
He was out for months.
Second or third World Series. Yeah, he's been out the whole season. Yeah. There's no I just don't see anywhere it happens. But I certainly think there will be a time where we'll probably be wrong on it. You know what I mean? People will probably think it'll happen in his 5th start or something, and maybe it'll happen in his 4th start or 3rd start. Or maybe that's when they let him go. But again, this is a surprising total and a surprising amount of respect for David Peterson. Why do the Yankees have a 4.5 run total here? I don't entirely understand it. I feel like if this game was at Yankee Stadium, it would be 5.5 or 6. Feels too low. I'm with you on the Yankees being a good contrarian stack. And I really would have no problem at all getting to that, to be honest with you. So that's what I have the highest level of interest I have of anything in this game. Peterson has been better, but it just feels weird that I would have thought the Yankees would have looked like one of the great stacks today, and they certainly don't. So Give me a lefty, any lefty against the Yankees, any average to below average lefty, especially good hitting weather. I'm in on the Yankees. So totally in agreement there. St. Louis and Atlanta.
Yeah. So again, this is another game where you have, one pitcher. I have Lopez as just one of the many, pitchers that you might want to pair with Hunter Brown. I have him pretty much very, very low on that list. I shouldn't say that. I mean, they're so close as far as I'm concerned. So I guess he's okay. And Atlanta, I like running right back with them again. They're not particularly great value or anything like that, but I do like them against Gibson. So a little bit of Atlanta and a little bit of Lopez for me.
Yeah, this game I believe has there could be some weather concerns too. So if you're considering the pitching, I think
I see that.
But yeah, I mean, like Atlanta as maybe a secondary stack, and then I think about that. Then I look at Atlanta, and these guys have just completely torched historically Zach Gibson. So I'm open to this idea. I think I could talk myself into pulling the trigger with some Atlanta here if this game was a full go. Almost 100 degrees in St. Louis and 6-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left. It's a lot of good hitting conditions today, and the totals don't seem to be adding up to quite as high as I thought they would be. So I'm good with the Atlanta stack today for sure. Atlanta and the Yankees are two of the contrarian stacks that I definitely like today.
Yeah. So Dodgers, White Sox, a little. That's a yellow game also, by the way.
Yeah.
And that starts only an hour late, whatever. But the Dodgers rate to be one of the top two for me today, both raw points and on value. Very, very good matchup, obviously, against Flexen, and they're probably going to be pretty highly owned. Bobby Miller, I actually have as well as a play. Now, again, for those of you that were, I actually at the end of the day didn't end up playing him as much as I should have, or not should have, as much as I said I was going to. I don't even know how many points he ended up with at the end of the day, but the White Sox are really, really poor.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many points, what's his name, ended up.
Yeah, only 20 because he only pitched 5 innings.
He pitched 5 innings, but I know the White Sox didn't do anything.
No runs. Yeah.
Yeah. So literally anytime anybody's against the White Sox, they're either going to be popular or you're going to play them anyway. You know what I mean? Like they're just really, really bad unless the pitcher's just hopeless. So I think Bobby Miller is completely in play. So for me, Dodgers, Bobby Miller, and nothing on the other side.
If I trusted it coming off the injury, I think Miller's the best pitcher on the slate today. By far. I actually don't think it's even particularly close. I think his strikeout prop is too low. I don't care. He had a couple bad games before getting banged up and getting set down. They only let him throw 79 in his first start back. I think that there's a chance that I think he's got a better chance of getting, the work done, getting more pitches thrown than Garrett Cole, for example. He's also a little cheaper. And I think has incredible strikeout upside, even though he's only got like a 5.3 expected strikeout rate. So I'm good with the Miller play as maybe in addition to or instead of Brown. Dodger, it's 83 degrees with 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out, and maybe you could argue that hurts Miller. When he gets going, man, he can put up. He's really good. I'm going to bet this guy's going to he'll be a top 5 Cy Young guy within like a year or two, I think. And the Dodgers make a lot of sense. I keep an eye out for the lineup as always, but Teoscar being in the lineup does make a big difference, whether or not you're playing him in part of your stack. And then just also a reminder that you've got Hayward, Biggio, and Lux who you could play, but they all have massive pinch hit risk. So just keep that stuff in mind, because what's going to happen is when a team starts a righty against the Dodgers, especially when Mookie is going to be out, they're going to bring in. Sorry, the team starts a righty against the Dodgers. They're going to bring in a lefty almost every time, just because the guys you're afraid of in this lineup are Ohtani, obviously number 1, Freeman number 2, and Will Smith, would be the other one. But they'll be happy to bring in lefties to face these guys at the bottom. So I would expect at least 1 or 2 of these guys to get pinch hit for tonight, unless it's like 9-0 or something. Even then, they probably do actually too. So yeah, Dodger stack. That's the beware part of it. If you want to play the guys at the bottom of the order, they'll be much lower owned because I think people are going to have salary to spend. And Ohtani, it's hard not to like the Dodgers today, but Dodgers and Miller both for me.
All right, Houston, Colorado, Hunter Brown, too cheap. For the matchup, too cheap for everything. He's rates to be clearly the best pitcher on the slate by a lot. Probably the most humorous thing that I see is my ownership projection of being 45%. That's pretty humorous, I think, especially in the bigger buy-ins. I think in the Millie Maker, I think it's going to be 75.
Yep.
What do you want me to say? I mean, it certainly makes a lot of sense. I don't see Houston picking up too much steam as far as projections or ownership. I mean, as we talk about Gomber Knight being not bad, but I mean, Houston could certainly score 15 in this game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if he's actually scored 15 or whatever it is, but I mean, Houston could certainly put up a freaking number here. So I don't know what my projections are giving me here, but I certainly wouldn't be opposed to playing Houston at home against Gomber. So I do like Houston. I like Hunter Brown, obviously, but now we're talking like serious ownership issues.
Yeah, I definitely like Hunter Brown. I understand he's going to be popular. He's, for what it's worth, he's like the best projected player on this slate of any kind, pitching wise. You know what I mean? And the fact that he's only 8K with the highest strikeout expected number and the least risk, you'd think. Although he definitely can occasionally have just one of those duds. So yeah, I like Houston in a similar manner that I like the Dodgers and Yankees. But again, I can't prioritize all of them. I don't really want to prioritize all of them. The Dodgers are the one I like the best, but it's not that big of a gap. So if the ownership is slinging too much one way, I think that playing either Houston or the Yankees certainly make a lot of sense. I think on most slates, this would have been a Houston chalk night. There's just other good spots. And I'm not, I don't know about eating the Hunter Brown chalk. Like I probably won't play 75% of them, but if I played like, the 250 and the 121 single entry or whatever, he'll definitely be in at least one. He'll probably be in both. That's just where I have him today. But I do like the idea of Miller to play with him as a way of getting a little bit different while using Brown. All right. So Miami, KC.
Yeah. So this is the one that's picking up a big projection for me on both sides. I'm getting Kansas City right alongside the Dodgers as the top stack today. And that's not particularly surprising, but what's surprising is I'm actually getting like some good value on Miami, and maybe that's just the way the park is set up today. I don't know, because Lugo is he's pretty good. So I guess all the Miami guys are probably really cheap, which is why I'm getting there. But I figured I would mention it. So Miami, Kansas City, both sides of this game, I'm really getting a ton of as far as hitting goes.
I think it makes sense. I actually don't think Miami's going to be like as popular. So I think that's an interesting way to get different. I do think KC's going to have some ownership, but again, I think it's going to, and there's a lot of good stacks today. So I think it's going to spread out maybe a little bit more than people are expecting. And I, for what it's worth, of all the teams we've talked about, I think KC certainly makes the most sense. Now, the other offenses are more talented offenses, I guess you'd say, but another, 94-degree day in Kansas City with the wind blowing out, and they've got a total that's almost matches the Dodgers. They're obviously a lot cheaper than the Dodgers are outside of Bobby Witt. And I like them. It's just going to, the factor is going to be the ownership. I didn't get to the Miami thing as much. It seems like other people like it more than I think the pricing combined with the awesome hitting conditions is probably enough of a reason to play them. And oddly enough, it's cool that you got to them because in your projections, because I don't think that most projections are getting to them much. And I think that I don't mind taking a stab at as a probably more of a complimentary stack than a full stack for me. But definitely like the hitting in this game. KC though more so for me. Texas and Milwaukee.
Yeah, so you got an Andrew Heaney game, and when Andrew Heaney's pitching, it's probably a game that you want to look at in a on a slate where you're looking for pivots and you're looking for a lot of stuff. So Heaney, as we've been watching for years. I mean, he can put up really good games, and he can get beat up just a little bit. Well, I will say that the beating up part has not really happened all too much. And from time to time, maybe, but so I do like him a little bit here as just another SP2 to kind of throw in there. I mean, he's really, really cheap if you want to, help you get up to the Dodgers and guys like that. If that's what you want to do. And likewise, I think playing Milwaukee is equally reasonable. For that matter, I think playing Texas is sort of reasonable here. So I think that three prongs of this game are perfectly okay in GPPs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like I think that the Heaney unowned idea is not a bad one. So I would be willing to take a stab at that. Especially because I don't feel like outside of even Brown, I don't feel like it's not like we have DeGrom and Scherzer on the mound tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like we need to spend up. So I think that maybe that spend down to get a little different is a way to go. And I personally maybe I'm too anti Bryce Wilson or something. I think Texas is interesting. I mean, I don't think it's the right slate for me to stack against Heaney just because I like enough other stacks. But I could see Texas going a little bit nuts here. This is a great left-handed hitter's power park, and you got Seager, Josh Smith, Nate Lowe, Heim, Jankowski should be in there at 2,200. They're affordable now because they've had a down year. I kind of like Texas as a getting different option, but again, this is what I'm running into today. There's too many stacks I like and not enough pitchers that I like. So I am on the Texas side here, and I like the idea of Heaney because I do think it's an interesting different play that wouldn't surprise me if he had the most strikeouts of any pitcher on the slate. Okay, Oakland and the Angels.
Yeah, I think this is sort of interesting too. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be getting to the pitching really, but I think I'll take shots at both bats. I suppose it's a pretty good park nowadays, and I don't know. Just looking for other stacks here. Oakland, I have them rated value-wise, maybe 5th or 6th. I really don't have the Angels rated well, but what's really weird when I run my sims, I'm getting several stacks of them, even in big buy-ins. So I'm going to respect this game a little bit and say that I like a little bit of the hitting on both sides.
Yeah, the only issue I have with the hitting in this game is that I just named like 100 teams that I like. So
of course, I mean
it's a tricky situation. I think that for me it would be the Angels side that I'd be more drawn to. Was kind of hoping for a little bit more out of the game last night, but it was the Angels were good. Yeah, so Ohapi, Taylor Ward, Rengifo, a nice little Angel stack. I'm certainly not gonna go away from it, but I'm not trying to target it as much just because of the number of games that I like a lot today. But yeah, I'm definitely okay with it. I didn't get to any of the Oakland either, and they have some pinch hit risk guys who are probably going to be in there. But you might have Schumann in there at starting. He might be leading off for 2,500 at short. Just as a one-off, even that just makes a lot of sense. So I'm curious to see how their lineup comes out, but I'm open to pieces. Daz Cameron is going to probably be 2,600. They're super cheap, the Oakland side. So maybe if you did need to spend all your money elsewhere, maybe you could use a 3-man Oakland stack or something to try and even it out. But for me, mostly it's the Angels in this one. All right, and then we have what do we have next? The Padres?
No, Minnesota, Arizona.
Minnesota, Arizona. All right.
So this could I'm trying to finally get ahead on this Joe Ryan business, okay? Because I mean my ROI in Joe Ryan games is just so zero. I shouldn't even say zero. It would be like negative, like infinity. Okay, literally whatever I do with Joe Ryan is wrong. But I was able to mess with the baseball gods to get him to have a good game in the last game. Or the game before that. Yeah, 2 games ago.
Yeah,
he was doing terribly, so I whined about it after the first 2 innings. Then he didn't give up another batter for the whole game. He got 23 or whatever. But for me, it's been basically disappointing. And this would be a nice time for him to just smash when obviously no one's expecting it, but I guess maybe when less people might be expecting it. So I'll probably bite. But the thing is, again, if you pay for Joe Ryan, then these Dodgers and these other stacks you want to pay up for become a little less tenable. But I definitely do like the Ryan side. Fat is showing up as usual as like just a guy and like my 13th best pitcher or something like that. So if I play 50 lineups, I'll get to him maybe in a couple, but it's not going to be a priority. And I'm definitely not getting into any of the hitting in this game.
Yeah. I agree with basically everything you said. I think this is a spot where I could talk myself into Joe Ryan. I mean, like I said, I don't feel like very strongly about any other SP2s. So I'm going to be open to a lot of these guys. So Joe Ryan and Fott, for that matter. I like Ryan a little bit better, but I think that Fott, I mean, they're obviously different prices. I think Fott's a reasonable play at that price against a Minnesota team that strikes out a lot. So, yeah, and then no hitting for me. I think that both pitchers are on the list. But Joe Ryan more so, and not going to get to the hitting myself here. All right, so then we get to move over, and I had to change a lot of my builds last night because of the cease news that came out. When he was announced out, because that Padres line. I mean, I think when you put one elite hitter, take one elite hitter out of the lineup, it makes a massive difference. So speaking of which,
I don't think Mackenzie Gore is a bad play today. I think he's another perfectly reasonable SP2. So, listen, you're just going to have to you play multiple lineups. I would say easy, but it's an easy concept. At least you play Brown and you shuffle the rest, whatever. But if you have to live with one or two, it's going to be tough to figure out which one. Honestly, I think Gore is perfectly reasonable. Not getting to the Missouri, whoever that is, and I'm not getting to any of the hitting.
Yeah, I like the Gore, and for anybody betting out there, I like the Gore prop bets today. I think that the numbers are way too low for him, and I think that he's another one who makes a lot of sense to me. If you look at if you just look at what he does in general, like if he pitches, if he doesn't get lit up, which happens every now and then, he goes nuts. I'm not going to get to the Missouri thing, but I like Gore, and I actually considered Washington, and then I just sort of what am I doing? So I think it's just going to be some Mackenzie Gore for me. That's the only thing I like here. All right. Then we get the Cubs in San Francisco.
Yeah. So believe it or not, unfortunately, just same comment. Like Wisenhunt, Hendricks, I couldn't imagine manually selecting one of them in my Millie Maker or whatever. But I think they're both in MME, just part of the shuffle, to get to the SP2 that scores the most, or that's the best value. So I do like both of them for that purpose. And then none of the hitting for me.
I'm curious where the Wisenhunt thing's coming from, because I don't even know for sure that he'll pitch.
I don't know. I got him as probable, and I have a projection that puts him my 13th best pitcher. You know what I mean? So it's to me, that's playable today. It's
yeah, no, I hear you. As far as I know, this is the first start he'll have ever made. I don't know. I don't remember any from ever. So but I mean, but hey, it doesn't mean it hasn't worked before. They still have a K expectancy of him at 4.6, which is a little higher than I would have thought.
That's something, right?
I also don't think he should be 7K, but that's a whole.
No, he should be probably 5,600, right?
Yeah, they're trying to do that with the young guys this year. I am not going to do it. I just will, but I will say that Kyle Hendricks put up 29 against this team in his last start, and he's 5,600. So I think he has to be on the list just based on that, if for no other reason. And again, I don't like the back-to-back thing, but when you're talking about 5,600, if you needed it, maybe it'd be better if we had a Coors game or something to get to, because you're going to get an unknown 5,600 for a guy who just put up the biggest score against this team of any pitcher that day 5 days ago. So a little bit of, probably a little bit of smoke and mirrors. He had 8 strikeouts, I believe, in 5 innings, and he's projected to have 3.5. I don't know. I could talk myself. I've talked myself into worse plays. I say that right now. I'm not really sure if that's true, but I think I've talked myself into worse plays than that before. I don't want to play a stack in San Francisco on this slate. I would say that on a different slate, I would be getting to the Cubs. But this is not the right slate for it. And sort of in sum up for me, I have Brown. And then in this order of how I like him right now, it's, again, I'm really willing to be Brown, Miller, Gore, Heaney, Miller and Gore have like the same. Heaney, Ryan, Green, Hendricks, Gaussman. But Brown obviously being my number one right now. I don't know what to do with the Pittsburgh-Cincinnati game. I like the Yankees, Dodgers, and Braves. It sounds like I shouldn't even be allowed to say that because it feels like cheating. I like Houston. I like Kansas City. And I like Texas. And I am going to have to figure out between now and 6 what I'm actually going to end up wanting to do. A lot to like for a slate. Like, it's an interesting one because we think of GPPs and it's all multi-entry and all this stuff. But tonight, if you're playing the 33, well, you kind of, you kind of want to make sure that you have something you really, really like. And I'm having a little trouble finding out which of those things it's going to be for me, both as far as
you could listen. I mean, you could find something you like. You play Brown with any pitcher and then the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Like that.
Right.
That's great. All you got to do is be 100% perfect and not dupe with 37 people.
Right. I don't think you're gonna have to worry about duping in this tournament, though.
Right. The other thing I would say again is that Pittsburgh Cincinnati game is obviously really important to get a handle on.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, if there was any, listen, there are people that can play 20 lineups in this thing. Okay. I mean, I'm not one of them. So if I'm going to play one lineup, I'm not going to take freaking weather risk. You know what I mean? Like if there's like a delay when this is starting, or it's close, I'm not playing Hunter Green. You know what I mean? And I'm not playing Pittsburgh. I'm just not going to do it. The reason why is like you said, there's just other options. And there's plenty of hitting options. There's plenty of pitching options, obviously. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's also a good excuse to get a little lower ownership, take a lower owned, Bobby Miller or Mackenzie Gore.
And the Bobby Miller again, it's not that big of a deal, but it is like an hour later than some of these earlier games, sort of. And then there's a couple of them, so you get to see a little bit. Like you get to see when Garrett Cole has 12 strikeouts and he's coming back in the game. You know what I mean? Like that. Actually, by 8-10, you probably won't know that. So
the games go really. One thing I noticed going to the Dodger game the other night.
Yeah, but not with a lot of strikeouts because the strikeouts they go deep.
Strikeouts take longer. That's true. But it is wild how fast the games go these days. It's like it feels like you think an inning just happened. And it's really like no, 2.5 innings just happened.
It's going to be kind of a cool sweat when I go on 11-2 because these late games have a lot of implications. There'll be people with Joe Ryan. You know what I mean? There'll be probably people with Mackenzie Gore, and this slate ain't over. And the Dodger game will be done by the time I get going. I imagine. If not, it's because the Dodgers are smashing. It's like if it's 11 o'clock and that Dodger game is still going, then the Dodgers probably won the slate. But or maybe Milwaukee game is still going, or the Houston game is still going. That's actually kind of a fun sweat time actually. So I'll be there at 11 o'clock for sure, and I'm almost certainly going to be there at 6 o'clock for live as well. Beautiful. All
right, man. Well, good luck today. If I don't get in the millionaire, I'm definitely going to be rooting for you. Come at 8 o'clock or 11 Eastern. And if I do get in, I'm still probably going to be rooting for you.
And if you put something in the State Kings, I'm totally going to get in there.
I threw it up there at a low rate, and I'm deciding whether I want to do it tonight. But I'm in there.
Well, I'm gonna try to get something going in there and see if I can get some interest.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Good luck to everybody, and let's have